Why he did at
Brandon,
Liverpool.
what are you saying? Because you super chatted into the show last night and you kind of defended it as a good bit of business.
I don't know what my missus put in my water towel, to be honest with you. I've had a night to kind of mull it over. But no, to be honest with you, right, I did say that if the price was right, then I wouldn't have a massive issue with this signing. And there's a little bit of logic behind it, I suppose. I'm trying to think a little bit out of the box, maybe what Mikel Arteta is looking at, maybe what Mikel Arteta is looking at doing with the team. Now, £60 million and £200,000 a week. No, I don't want him. Yeah, Chelsea, you can keep him, right? But however, if we were say we get Kai Havertz for 45 million, then I'd think that's a bit more of a reasonable deal, right? And now I look at our team and I look at, right, okay, everybody's questioning what's Kai Havertz's best position? Where does he fit in at Arsenal? Clearly, to me, he can't play number 9. So if we're bringing him in to play number 9, then I just think this transfer is ridiculous completely altogether. So the only real option that I can think of is if you play him in and around the number 10 role and then move Odegaard to an 8. And then you've against the smaller teams, because we like to be a team that likes to predominantly have the ball and dominate the ball, you can kind of afford to play 2 attack-minded midfielders and then a 6 behind them. And then against the bigger teams, it gives you options then, because you've got Thomas Partey and Declan Rice potentially coming in. You could play 2 6s and 1 8 against the bigger teams. So it shores the midfield up a little bit. I also looked at it like this as well. If we're talking about 10 or 8 role or whatever you like, right? That then gives us 2 players in each position of the pitch that can play that role. So Odegaard and Havertz playing the 10, or Emil Smith-Rowe and Havertz can play the 10. You've got Fabio Vieira and Odegaard that can play the 8, Declan Rice and Thomas Partey that can play the 6. So that kind of makes a little bit more sense to me than bringing in Declan Rice and Caicedo, who are both predominantly 6s. So I'm not too sure about this, And then when I hear £60 million, but then you can go out and get Caicedo for £15 million more, it just makes this transfer seem more and more ridiculous. So I don't know. I don't know how to feel about this one, but I'm glad to hear that Agal is saying, look, if Mikel Arteta wants him, I back him, because I've seen a lot of Arsenal fans on Twitter. And I know Twitter's not really, but I've seen a lot of Arsenal fans on Twitter that big up Mikel Arteta's talent ID and this, that, and the other, that are absolutely kicking up a stink about this transfer. Back your manager.
Because it doesn't make sense. It reminds me of us needing players in other positions and going and signing Nicolas Pepe at the time. It's a similar kind of thing, because it's like we all here can sit here and say Kai Havertz was a quality player in Germany. He came to Chelsea and he hasn't lived up to the hype at all, right? But is it going to be a situation where when we sign him, he's just going to magically become that player that he was back in Germany? Or is it a situation that we're going to magically find a position for him? Like, I rate Arteta, but to a certain degree, you're looking at a deal and you're saying to yourself, what's going on?
I'm sorry, Brandon. I think the chat made me. I don't know whether he's talking about Brandon or
could be either.
Could be, I saw a picture of you, Lewis, the other day. You're looking pretty hench, brother, at the minute. Looking pretty hench.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. Chelsea will do that to you.
Well, I get that. I want to ask a question to the Chelsea boys. You first, Lewis. How happy are you that you might be getting anywhere between 50 to 70 million pound for Kai Havertz?
Would you take 45?
I would take 30. So I'm ecstatic. I'm so happy. I didn't think we'd see this day for years. And now he's going to my rivals as well. All the idiots who have overhyped and overprotected this guy for years, and he's decided to rat all of them out to the rivals. This is why you don't back a player over the club. Guy's not good enough in any position. I understand the debate about him potentially being used as depth. I personally think his only best attribute would be off the bench. That's the only consistent thing I've really seen of him. He is good for the last 15, 20 minutes of a game.
Or Champions League,
as an 8, he's got no physicality, no defensive awareness. He can barely create from deep with no consistency. As a 10, he can't create consistently and can't do well in tight spaces. As a winger, he can't beat a man consistently. His crossing ain't consistent at all. Up front, no hold-up play. Can't finish, can't head consistently. Guy's one of the worst players I've ever seen play for Chelsea. I've ever seen, because I know there's going to be worse. He's one of the worst I've ever seen play for Chelsea. And if we're going to rob Arsenal of 60 million, don't ask questions, accept the fee, get rid, and end of an era that's been Kai Havertz.
Okay, I need to ask a quick question before we go to the next Chelsea fan. These are the positives that Arsenal fans are speaking about when we speak about Kai Havertz. His height brings us a different element because he might be able to head the ball. Is that a positive?
He's one of the worst headers that we've got in our squad.
No, it's one of his better attributes, but he has no consistency in it. So
I wouldn't even call it one of his. I wouldn't even call it that, Lewis. I've seen this guy miss so many headers, man, and scuff so many of them.
It's just because most of his goals are headers.
Is he? Is
only
he?
way he's on the ball than that.
Would you say 19 goals?
Would you say with good wingers next to him, he'd be able to find them, and he has good vision?
If he's in tons of space, maybe, and it's still a debate. It's still a very big debate. Also, you need to make sure he has Skittles and sweets before games. Otherwise, he's going to be terrible in the first half. And he only really turns up around March. So,
can I add another thing to this debate, right? How much of Kai Havertz's poor form would you boys put down to the fact that he's had multiple managers at Chelsea? One of them being Frank Lampard twice, then Thomas Tuchel, and then Graham Potter, where it didn't really work for Chelsea at all. So is there a player there that Mikel Arteta could potentially work with and get something out of? Or is it just he's just a, you know,
on this question, what it is, I get a lot of strikers haven't been great at Chelsea over the past few seasons. Since Costa, I would say we haven't had a successful striker. Tammy was good, to be fair, when we had that transfer ban. He put up quite a lot of goals. But other than that, we haven't had that many strikers, right? But with Havertz, this thing about, it's just Chelsea, it never works there for strikers is overstated. Because if you actually watch him, like me and Lewis do week in, week out, this guy has consistently been played by every single manager that has coached this guy in various positions. So he's mainly been played straight down the middle. He's been played as a 9. He was underwhelming there. He's been played behind Lukaku. He's been underwhelming there. He's been played on the wing. He's been underwhelming there. So the strongest thing I would say with Havertz is he can find a pass, but again, he needs to be in acres of space. When the players come into him, he's not a Felix where he can nip out of it in tight spaces. He's not that, right? Havertz on the ball is not that. And he looks tall. He's quite tall, but he's quite slow. When he runs and he's chasing the ball, when he hasn't got the ball, it's like he's got a magnet on his back. Do you know what I mean? It's like something's holding him back.
He plays like he's high, bro.
Yeah, he is not a left centre mid. Every single Arsenal fan's trying to make sense of it and saying, he's going to come in and playing Xhaka's role. He is someone that you bring off the bench when there's tired legs, there's a bit more space. He's someone that is just not. I just don't see how it's going to work at Arsenal.
No, no.
His
levels clear.
Trossard is better than him.
I wanted to touch on this as well quickly because a lot of people try to say Havertz was misprofiled and he was let down by the whole Chelsea regime and all the managers and everything. First off, Kai Havertz was signed as a versatile player who could play in multiple positions and play in multiple positions well. Kai Havertz himself has come out and said in numerous interviews that he can play as a 9, he can play as a 10, he can play anywhere in the front 3. So I hate the narrative. I'm not saying it's coming from you, but it's just in general. I hate the narrative in general that Kai Havertz has been let down by people. Right? He has let himself down. Exactly. He was Graham Potter's pet project. Tuchel gave him so much game time up front, and the whole narrative was, we play so much better as a team with Havertz than Lukaku. We are so much more fluid with him. Yet when we do that, he misses all of his opportunities. The team just play better with him because he's more selfless. The problem with Kai Havertz is simply himself. That's why he turns up in big games like a Champions League final, like Dortmund at home when we're 2-0 down and we need to turn it around. That's when he turns up. He ain't motivated for anything else. He is barely a jack of all trades. He's a master of absolutely nothing. all he is going to be good for you is a little bit of depth. But he has been given fair opportunities here. And the fact that some Arsenal fans are just trying to act like the last 3 years didn't happen. I'm seeing people put Leverkusen comps up on the timeline. Like, what are we doing? Did COVID just freeze the timeline or something? No, this guy's been
why is Leeds catching straight?
You've been slandering him for 3 years, and now some fans want to try and turn it around and act like it's a good thing. Like, I don't understand this. Nobody can understand this.
So what about Sancho? Isn't the same thing, guys? I'm sorry.
Wait, before you come in and talk about Sancho, right? Just on Havertz, right? One thing I'll say as well that I'm hearing from Arsenal fans is always confidence. You know, he hasn't got confidence. I'm sorry. Lampard brought him in, was starting him week in, week out. Tuchel came in, was starting him week in, week out. German link-up. Potter starting him week in, week out. We had Aubameyang on the bench, and Havertz was still starting ahead of him week in, week out. It's not a confidence thing. It's a quality thing with Havertz. I was patient with this guy, right? I gave him a season. I said, cool, first season, it is where it is. Second season, I still said, you know what? Let's see next season. It's only this season that just went where I said, you know what? It's time for us to move on. I'm happy to keep him in the squad because off the bench, again, tired legs in space, he's a bit of a drifter. He can do something for you. But week in, week out in this league, he's not that. Havertz is not that. And it's not just a Chelsea thing because, yes, we have played him in multiple positions. But like Lewis said, the guy said it himself.
He's mainly been up front too. And there's been no development in any trait of his ability in the last 3 seasons.
He doesn't know how to put his foot through the ball. His finishing's terrible. He creates a few chances here and there, but his big chances that he misses week after week. When he kicks it, when he tries to shoot, it's like a pass back. He's got this little lob trait he does. I don't know what it is, this little lob thing. So I don't understand where he's going to play in this team because he's worse than Jesus. Jesus is a terrible finisher. Let's be honest. He's not the greatest finisher. Havertz is worse than that. So where are you going to play Kai Havertz? I do not understand.
The Xhaka role, apparently.
But there was no.
That's what they're saying.
I'm looking at your last 3 years. I'm looking at your last 3 years. There is not even one frontline player that came to your club and performed well. From Pulisic to Ziyech, Timo Werner, Havertz, Aubameyang. Tell me one. So
Havertz
maybe it's not
more
only
game time than all of them, though.
All of them.
So here's my problem. Maybe he's the best of all of them. That's why every coach is playing him. Why do you think all these coaches are playing him? They have to see something in him that you guys don't see. I'm not defending the
then
performances.
I'll add one other thing.
Let me just say, I am not defending the performances. I'm not defending the performances. However, if every single coach is coming in and playing this guy over the other guys, maybe he's the best. Maybe they see something in him, and the problem is they can't get the best out of him.
The least
That's what the off-the-ball movement brings, though. The movement, like, that's one of the things that he's decent at. He gets into right positions, and the team play more fluid as a result. But his application on the ball is not there. That's why I always ask people on numerous streams, and I never get an answer because there isn't an answer. What on-the-ball attributes does Kai Havertz bring consistently to any football team? There is none. He doesn't bring anything.
Yeah, but you have to question it as well, though, right? Because Real Madrid were interested in him. Bayern Munich are apparently interested as well, although they haven't made a move. So these big clubs are coming in for him. So he can't be as bad of a player as what we are seeing at Chelsea.
City also as well. City have been, I swear it was Ornstein yesterday when he mentioned Kai Havertz, also mentioned an interest from City. It is intriguing to see what they see. I want to go to some super chats here.